Hi, my name is Dixie Roulette Jeffrey. I am a certified coach, and I am very passionate about being mentally healthy. And I believe that being mentally healthy sets people free from the fear and suffering that happens from being mentally unhealthy. It really allows them to have a life that is full of joy and peace and hope. So I want to talk to you a little bit today about that. First of all, what am I talking about when I say mentally unhealthy? Really, to me, that means all of the components that make up our mental functions. So everything from the thoughts that you think, the way that you reason situations, the way you look at circumstances, the way you understand things, your beliefs, and really that inner voice that's in there always talking to you. All of those things kind of make up our mental functions and can really impact our lives a lot. Talked about that a little bit last time, but this time what I want to talk to you about is 6 of the most devastating things that I see, the most devastating results of being mentally unhealthy. A lot of these, most all of them actually, are things from my own life that I've experienced. But as I've become more aware of this, I have seen it everywhere, all over the world. I see that this is happening, and it wasn't just my life or my experience. I think this is, kind of a universal thing. So just want to talk to you about some of those things, hopefully make you aware of some of these things. Maybe you have some of them in your life as well. So the first one that I want to talk to you about is learning and education. I know that we spend a lot of money and we try to help people to better themselves and to be more educated and things like that. I know the Gates have a lot of programs going. They're trying to help remedy this situation. But what my experience was, and what I see a lot of times, is that when you are mentally unhealthy, when your thought processes and your reasoning and all of those kind of things are not healthy, learning is very difficult. It's almost like you're in a fog. Your thoughts are not really clear. You can't really understand and comprehend like I think some people can. But I remember as a child, trying really hard and still just like not being able to get it. It was almost like I was in a fog. And it wouldn't have mattered how much effort. It's kind of like putting your brights on when you're driving in the fog, right? It doesn't help you to see more. Actually kind of frustrates you. So I think if you're not mentally healthy, learning is very difficult. I also found as a child that it was almost like having a bully living inside of my head all the time. Anytime I would attempt to do something or try to make improvements, there was always that voice that that beat me down, told me how stupid I was or that I couldn't do things and things like that. So it's almost like an internal bully that's going on all the time that you can't get away from, and is actually worse than any bully on the outside because they know all your secrets and all your fears and those kind of things. So it makes learning really difficult if you're not mentally healthy. And like I told you, I had no idea how to be mentally healthy. I just thought that's how you did things. So that's what I did as I was growing up. Another component, another devastating result that I see of being mentally unhealthy is drug and alcohol abuse and use. I think that when you don't know how to process your emotions, you don't know how to process what's going on inside of you, your feelings, your thoughts, those kind of things, especially in painful situations like rejection or situations that all of us have, disappointments and things like that. When you don't know how to process that information, or at least not in a healthy way, you look for anything, help me to feel better, help me to feel happy, help me to feel alive, or any of those kind of things. And I think a lot of people get exposed to drugs or alcohol, thinking it's just a fun thing. It's not going to cause them any pain, and then it gets a hold of them, and it's kind of becomes their crutch for dealing with life, dealing with circumstances and things that are painful. So I definitely think it causes a lot of devastation. Another thing that I see, devastating result of being mentally unhealthy, is the depression and suicide that I see everywhere. I myself, I mentioned before, have struggled with depression, with trying to understand, why life is happening and why things do turn out the way they do and all those kind of things. So, what I see is that people are pretty desperate. We want help. We're looking for, somebody help me to get through this. We go to doctors, we go to counselors, things like that. And what I see is that, they prescribe us medication, or, they'll talk to us about the circumstances that are going on. And not that those things are bad in any way, but I think that if we are mentally healthy, we can process the information much better. We can look at situations in a different way. We can understand them in a different way. That kind of releases that. And for me, like, the ultimate desperation is when you've exhausted your resources. You have tried everything you've done all of the things that you know to do, and you're still miserable inside. You're still unhappy. And I think that just creates such a desperation that people ultimately end up, taking their lives just to get that to stop. So it's very real, just as real as physical pain is the pain that comes from, depression and those kind of things. So the fourth reason that I think, that is very devastating results of being mentally unhealthy is broken relationships. And I think all of these things are kind of connected and work together. But what I've seen is that if you are not mentally healthy, you don't even know what a healthy relationship looks like. You don't know how to find one or create one or be in one. You don't know how to be a healthy partner. And with all of our best efforts, a lot of times we end up in divorce and broken relationships and being single parents and fighting with our own parents and things like that. I think those all stem from our mental health. If we are not mentally healthy, we don't know how to deal with each other, and we don't know how to deal with conflict and things like that. So I think that's a huge, devastating consequence for sure. The fifth one I would say is generational, right? If you are raised with unhealthy parents, mentally unhealthy parents who think a certain way and process information a certain way, that's what you learn. That's all you know. You don't know that it's unhealthy. You don't know that it's broken. You just do what your parents did, or you think how your parents did. You kind of get your perspective from your parents when you're young. And so I think if they're unhealthy, they're going to teach you to be unhealthy. And then you become a parent, and a lot of the things that you didn't even realize were unhealthy, you pass on to your kids. One example of that for me is shame. Using shame as a way to discipline somebody. It creates so much devastation inside. But I didn't know, that was something that was so devastating. And of course, I would have never done that to my kids if I would have known. And I'm sure my mom would have never done those things to me if she had known. But, something like making a mistake and making you feel bad about that, or pointing things out like that. Any of those kind of things that can cause a lot of pain for a child. And then the last one I want to talk to you about, this one is probably, a little tougher, but I really think it is a consequence or a result of not being mentally healthy, and that is PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. And basically what that syndrome is and what happens in your mind is that a traumatic experience happens. A lot of times we hear about it with military people, and but there are other traumas that happen in our life. And with PTSD, what happens is your mind and your mental capacities relives that situation over and over and over again. It's like, experiencing it once was horrible, and it did, all this damage inside of you. And yet, because of our mental processes and the way that things work in our minds, we just continue to relive it. It comes up again and again, and those traumas affect your body just like they did the first time. It's really devastating, and it's also, it feels very helpless. You feel like you're doing everything you can, and here it comes again, and you're reliving those situations. So I wanted to bring these things to your attention, to talk about those. June is Mental Health Awareness Month, so I wanted to get it out there. I have a lot of talks I want to do. I'm trying to keep them all under 10 minutes, but to help people really be aware of how our mental health affects our life. And I want to hopefully offer you some solutions, some things that will help, that have really helped me a lot too. So anyway, take care. Have a great night.